Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Tough times in the stock market, tough times in the crypto market, tough times overall. Just getting gas is a pain. I filled up the other day over $100 just to fill up the tank, and we're feeling it. We're feeling it all over, not just in the U.S., but in Europe markets, in Africa, obviously Russia, Ukraine. It's being felt all over, and we just got the CPI numbers out. So I want to talk about, just like the thumbnail says, we have a great recession coming up, and it's probably going to be one of the worst that we've ever experienced. Have you taken the steps to prepare yourself for this? I'm going to lay out basically why we're headed to one of the worst recessions ever. And I'm going to compare what I think is going to happen to the three prior worst recessions in U.S. history, and then just discuss how I'm going to prepare for that. So let's get into it. But before I begin, let's talk about, please hit that smash button, or smash the like button rather, and subscribe to the channel. I do all the work, and it's basically for my financial literacy, but I hope to educate some people as well. It's all entertainment, but I do the work when it comes to crypto, when it comes to financial equities, stocks. So show a brother some love, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. Now, CPI number, rising inflation. The consumer price index, CPI number, as everyone knows, was just released earlier last week, and it rose to above 8.6 in May, the highest since December 1981. Core inflation excluded food and energy, which rose about 6%. Both were higher than expected. The rise in inflation meant workers lost more ground in May, with real wages declining 0.6 from April and 3% on a 12-month basis. Food costs climbed another 1.2 in May, bringing the year-over-year gain to 10.1. I don't know about you guys, but going to the supermarket is depressing. Just getting maybe 12 items, you're almost paying $100 for these type of items that maybe 2 years ago would have been around 60. So although they say inflation is one number, I don't believe that is actually that number. It's much higher than that, and everyone knows that. The gas pump's crazy. Just everything's out of control. So what's Jerome Powell, Papa Powell, what's he going to do? He's facing a choice between elevating the U.S. inflation or recession. So he mentioned next week we have a Fed meeting in which he's anticipated to increase it by 0.5. And also he said in July, next month, he was going to do another 0.5 and then take a look at things and see what he wanted to do. The markets are pricing 0.5 increase next week as well as next month. And the wild card is what he's going to do in August. After the numbers came out, you see the markets didn't react well to that because they're anticipating that he's going to be more hawkish, and maybe 0.75 is going to be on the table for July or maybe August. So we'll see. He has a tough decision, and I would not want that man's job. So Kelly Evans, she had an interesting article here, and she said it would be completely wishful thinking that inflation will fall sharply by the end of this year. Even if the labor market slows further, it honestly might not just be a recession, but be a really deep one. To quell these pressures, global demand is simply too high relative to capacity, a problem most acute in the energy market right now. And we are nowhere close in being in a deep recession. So in other words, there are no factors other than much tighter monetary policy powerful enough to restrain further inflation and supply chain pressures. We asked back in March, why not have the Fed hike a full point? Why are they running the policy so far below neutral? Why are we pretending that the factors other than monetary and fiscal policy are to blame while letting the problem fester and keep getting worse? Why can't we reverse emergency stimulus as quickly as we added it? Once the overreach becomes clear, both the White House and Fed officials will have to better answer these questions in the months ahead. Inflation has even impacted the retail giants, Target and Walmart. They announced their earnings, and they fell sharply after the announcement, and they reduced their outlook due to oversupply. So if inflation is getting high, everyone's feeling it, their wallets, pocketbooks, they're cut back on spending. And some of the things that people like to do, like go to Walmart, and I know my wife loves to go to Target and just lose herself when she gets in there, that's not happening as much anymore. So as a result, Target and Walmart, they have an oversupply. And pretty soon, in order to relieve themselves of that, they're going to have to sell off some of these things. So the global growth hits, inflation in Ukraine, they go hand in hand, and that's resulting in the price that we're seeing as far as energy and gas goes. So it's pretty bad. The IMF cut its global growth projections for 2022 and 2023 on Tuesday, saying the economic impact from Russia's invasion of Ukraine will propagate far and wide, adding to price pressures and exacerbate significant policy challenges. Meanwhile, the World Bank lowered its global growth forecast for 2022 by nearly a full percentage point, from 4.1 to 3.2%, citing the pressure that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has placed on the global economy. Now, Russia, I don't know if you guys know this, but Russia supplies a lot of energy and gas to the European nations. Not so much the U.S., but a lot of Europeans rely on Russia for that gas. As you can see there in this chart, you see all the European states, or European countries rather, that rely on Russia for that. And it's impacting their economy greatly. Now, not to be outdone, the U.S., our fuel prices are also out of control. I talked about that in the beginning of the video. Our average rate just hit about 5% per gallon, which is crazy. Pretty soon I'll be taking a bike to work. Inflation, Ukraine, again, the war halted. If you look here, the war halted those shipments, leaving around 25 million tons of grain, according to UN estimates, from last year's harvest, stranded in silos and at risk of rotting if it is not moved soon. A further 50 million tons is expected to be harvested in the coming months. The grain elevators in Ukraine that have not been damaged or destroyed by shelling are quickly filling up. Soon there will be no room left to store the incoming harvest. So as you can see, Ukraine and that region in particular are responsible for 30% of the global exports of wheat and 65% of sunflower. Specifically in Ukraine, they produce 12% of wheat, 15% corn, and 50% sunflower oil. Middle East and Africa are the main customers. They rely heavily on these crops, and due to Russia blocking, Ukraine's ports, these crops may spoil, resulting in possible hunger event. That's tragic. But if they can't get these crops out, there's going to be a problem, and it's going to have global implications. So Elon Musk said that, he feels that looking at the global economy and looking at everything, he has a super bad feeling about it. And as a result, he's going to have to cut 10% of jobs. He said that he's warned in recent weeks about the risk of a recession, but his email ordering a hiring freeze and staff cuts was the most direct and high-profile message of its kind from the head of an automaker. Also, you have Jamie Dimon. He has a gloomy vibe about the future of the global economy. So Recessions Explained, basically, a recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of decline in the GDP, the combined value of all goods and services produced in the U.S. We have already recorded a decline for the first quarter of 2022, and recessions normally include a bear market, rising unemployment, and expansionary monetary and fiscal policies. We're there. 2 of the 3. In the U.S.'s history, we have had around 19 recessions. So let's get into the worst 3. See if there's any similarities. We have the oil crisis recession from November 1973 to March 1975. It lasted 16 months. There was 3% negative GDP, and peak employment was 8.6. This was caused by the quadrupling of oil prices and high government spending on the Vietnam War. Sounds familiar? Iran and energy crisis recession, that lasted 16 months, 2.9 negative GDP, and peak unemployment was 10.8, caused by the world's 4th largest oil producer overthrowing its U.S.-backed government, and the new regime of Iran exported oil at inconsistent levels and at lower volumes, resulting in higher prices. As a result, it resulted in high inflation. U.S. enforced tighter monetary policy. Does this sound familiar? Last, we have Eisenhower recession that lasted 8 months, 3.7 negative GDP, and peak unemployment was 7.4. And this was caused by government tightening their monetary policies to curb inflation. But the prices continued to rise. This sound familiar? So, I follow someone, Glenn Sheppard, on LinkedIn, and he had some good investment advice. He said, poor people spend, middle class saves, and rich people invest. He also said, Bloody October, this was an article from October 2021, but it also applies now, especially from June 10th. The greatest tragedy isn't what happened on Wall Street, it's what happened on Main Street. An alarming percentage of Americans don't care about what happened in the stock market because they don't have anything invested in it. A Gallup poll found that 50% of adults under 35 owned stocks or mutual funds before the 2008 crash, but only 37% do as of 2018. They're committing financial suicide, and I agree. The most tragic part is that it's never been easier to invest. Literally, you can do it from your bed with all these apps that they have now. They make it easier. All they need to do is download the app from brokerage firms such as E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, and Charles Schwab, etc. If a 20-something invests $100 a month in a good growth stock mutual funds, they'll be a millionaire by their mid-60s. I know some of y'all are thinking, I don't have $100 a month to spare right now, and I certainly didn't when I was in my 20s. The beauty of it is you don't have to invest that much to get started. Because the market is now so competitive, companies such as Fidelity are running specials that allow you to open an account with no minimum and no fees. And why is investing so important? Because it is how you achieve financial freedom. Broke people stay broke because they spend every dime they make just getting by. The middle class saves money, but ends up losing ground because they only make less than 1% on their savings, which doesn't even keep up with inflation. It's ridiculous what these saving rates are, but that's another story. By contrast, the stock market averages 11% growth per year. There are down years, which is why you never invest in the market unless you plan on leaving your money alone for 5 and up to 10 years. Dave Ramsey reports that he's made money over 97%, the stock market, over 97% over 5-year periods and 100% of the time over during the 10-year periods since 1929. So my plan is I'm dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. I believe Bitcoin, this is personal, is one of the greatest investments of our lifetime. There's a finite number of Bitcoin and there's about 17 million less than that. If you ask me, I think 14 million left to be mined, and that's it. And if number one in finance, supply and demand, if there's not enough Bitcoin to go around, what's going to happen to the price? It's digital gold, store of value, easier to make transaction versus digital gold. And if you look at the price of Bitcoin from its inception versus gold, you'll see that the profit margin is ridiculous for what Bitcoin is right now. It's decentralized and not controlled by any government or central bank. And it's a good hedge against inflation. If you look here, just an illustration of what one Bitcoin has done since 1998 versus the dollar. And this is a bit extreme, but my face right now is covering the where it is currently. You can buy a Tesla truck with one Bitcoin. So that's how it compares to the dollar. Google, that's another one that I'm dollar cost averaging in. 20-for-1 stock split based on the current price of $2,228. That would be $111.40. The split should take place during the 4th of July weekend. Google, you know about it. It's a search engine. It owns YouTube, Google Cloud, nearly $1 trillion market cap, making it the largest company in the US. 257 billion in revenue in 2021. Tesla, 3-for-1 split, just recently announced, probably going to be in late August, early September. Current price is $709. And if they split it, the price should be around $236 based on the price today. The only car company that does not pay for advertising their vehicles. And that's crazy. To me, that's crazy. High growth company. It has cars, full self-driving technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, batteries, energy, insurance company. This company is crazy. And it's only the beginning. Amazon, 20-for-1 split that took place on June 6th. The current price right now at the time of this video is $109. It has AWS, the Amazon Web Services, and it's basically the company's cloud computing segment. In the first quarter of 2022, sales increased by 37%, and operating income rose from 55% to $6.2 billion. It's the leader in the e-commerce space. It's number one. No one can compete with Amazon in e-commerce. And Amazon Prime streaming service, they're doing better. They're competing with Netflix and Disney, and their original programming is getting better. So Amazon is a good stock. In conclusion, my opinion is that things are only going to get worse globally and domestically before they get better. I will save cash and have it on hand for emergencies, and I have a long-term investor mind. So basically, when I invest, I'm not looking to trade or anything like that. My money's staying in there for at least 5 years. I'm going to dollar cost average into Bitcoin, Google, Tesla, and Amazon with a 5-10 year horizon. And I'll be planning on growing some food the benefit to growing your own food is, number one, what's in it, no chemicals. You become healthier. And should there be food supply shortage or something like that, God forbid, no one knows what can happen in the future. It's good to do. It's a good hobby as well. And get to know your neighbors. Get to know my neighbors. Build a stronger community. If things go bad, and we don't know how bad it can get, it's good to know your neighbor. If your neighbor needs something, if you need something from your neighbor, at least you have that relationship. And not only your neighbor right next door, but the whole community. If they can come together and help each other, that's very good. So that's how I'm preparing for this. I hope you guys like the video. If you do, smash that like button. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll be producing content like this. Like I said before, this channel is here to help, with any questions you have financially, and I do a lot of the homework, and then you can add on to it, and you can make wise decisions, lead you to financial freedom. Thank you.